Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessing. I'm gonna give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications ain't go out. James number 8, what's going on, my guy? I see you up in here. Geraldine, baby. Didi, baby. First things first, you already know. Hopefully, everybody having a blessed and productive Wednesday. Hopefully, everybody was smoothly able to get through the work day. Hopefully, your kids was able to get through the school day smoothly. Definitely peace and blessings to those who are celebrating birthdays this week and the upcoming week. Hopefully, y'all enjoying yourselves. And again, you know, doing the most necessary. My bad, y'all. My mind is a little bit everywhere, but we gonna talk about it tonight. Well, hopefully y'all enjoying your birthday weeks. Hopefully y'all keeping yourself safe, vigilant, observant as always. And again, enjoy every moment of it. And if you're lucky to see another one, give your praises where it's due. Appreciate everybody that tuned in last night for the conversation. You know, we definitely had a little range of topics to talk about. Definitely had a good conversation as always. For those that missed it, catch the replay. Yeah. Tonight, y'all already see the title. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. And that link is pinned in case anybody do want to chime in on the conversation. Um, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. The reason why this topic came up is only because you look at certain scenarios and you wonder why exactly would some people think that is in the best interest to neglect a child. I mean, let's keep it real. I mean, for some people, I can understand it ain't an easy task to deal with, but you grow and you learn. The one thing you should remind yourselves and also keep retraining yourself on is if you are bringing life into the world, the most you should do is make sure that your child is in a good state overall, mentally and physically. You know, now prime example, if by a certain age you see that your child is not developing any form of motor skills, if you see that your child is not walking or talking by a certain age, that's something that you should be worried about. And that's something that you shouldn't take for granted either. I'll be honest with you, there's no way you can sit here and tell me that you would feel comfortable. This is serious, baby. I mean, there's no way you could tell me that you would honestly feel comfortable or even feel good allowing your child to suffer. Now, again, if you see that your child is not functioning the way normal children should, that would be in your best interest to go seek some form of help. Go find a doctor, you know. And again, find out what's going on and try to do the best that you can as a parent to make sure that your child is good. You know, if you could catch it before it gets too out of hand, you could change the effects. You know, because I'll be honest with you, there are some children who are going to probably have speech impediments, might have stuttering, problems they might have, anything that's wrong with them on that level as far as speaking and pronunciations and everything else, yeah, it's gonna be a problem. But if you manage to again observe the situation and put your best foot forward as a parent, you could beat the odds and your child could still at some point live normal or at least be in a better position. You know, Chrissy, baby. And I'm just keeping it real because, again, no child should suffer like that. To be quite honest with you, the way I feel, there are some people who should just never be kids. That's my view and opinion on it. Because, again, how could you think to bring life into the world, but then you're going to just neglect them? You're going to basically let them suffer. You know, shouldn't be that way at all. In my opinion, if you are allowing your child to suffer knowing that you can help them, you're more selfish than anybody else that I think of. You know, now, I'm sorry. There's no way you could tell me by the age of 2 or 3, your child is nowhere on a social level or even on the verbal level that they should be on. If your child is not walking or at least learning their first words or at least showing any form of motivation and it's time for you to get them checked out because depending on what the scenario is, it could be a long journey. In some instances it might not be a long journey, but again, why should these children suffer? They ain't asked to come into this world, this imperfect world of ours, and then have to be neglected or thrown to the wolves. Like I said, it's things like this that make you think like there's a reason why some people ain't out here just putting kids in different ones because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I'm gonna say this, fellas. In my opinion, the only way you should be planting your seeds in anybody is if it's somebody you want to be with for life. Some of y'all putting yourselves in positions. Some of you have not put yourselves in positions yet. I'm gonna say to those who haven't been in that position yet, you better be careful about who you decide you want to bring life into the world with, because that person might not be as stable as you think. They could be definitely irresponsible. In some instances, they probably got a child like mine. Bud Files, what's going on? What's going on? I'm sorry, but brothers out there, y'all definitely got to start being more wiser in your decisions. To be quite honest, again, it's supposed to be law and structure. Again, knowledge of self. You placing all these kids out here in different scenarios, not really paying attention to what's going on. I'm speaking to those that need to hear it. And if you know it's going to be a lot of responsibility to deal with, and you know you can't deal with it, don't put yourself in that scenario. Ladies, it's the same thing. You gotta be careful in who you just allowing to use your body and place kids in. Because who's to say that person is really responsible or really going to be with you long term? But here's another thing. If you are going to bring life into the world with somebody, never neglect your child. Never neglect their needs. And even when the going gets tough, you have to make a clear, conscious decision on doing the right thing, regardless. Like I was saying earlier, if you know your child ain't walking by a certain age, you better hope that it's not something to where they might not be able to walk at all throughout life. When they are infants, you're supposed to make sure that everything is copacetic. And I mean, having certain tests ran when need be, make sure you're doing it for the benefit of your child. Marlene, baby. You already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. But you know, it's sad when you think about it because again, these children are not asking to be placed on this earth and not to be neglected or overlooked by the person that's supposed to be their main teachers and protectors. And I'm gonna say for those who are already in a situation, there's no way again you could be out here in the world having a child and you're not thinking to get your child in order, making sure that your child is on the right and narrow. That type of negligence to a child could affect them long run. Like I said, if your child has no form of verbal skills, motor skills, or anything along those lines, that's another problem. And that could be the most severe next to being paralyzed. Let's keep that real. Another form of the negligence, in my opinion, is again having them out all hours of the night when you know they still in the infant stages, or even going into 6 months. Your child is still not fully developed yet, as far as the immune system and everything. Hence, why you think you got to keep going back and forth to the doctors every so often. When your child cries a certain way, I think that's the I think that's the best thing to do when you hear your child screaming like that is, again, make sure you're getting some form of medical attention. BMF, what's going on, my guy? No doubt, man. Have a good one, man. You already know, my guy. But yeah, it's important again to make sure that your child is not in a precarious position. And if you don't catch certain things within time, the medical expenses that's going to incur, it's not going to be a good look at all. That's why I say it's important to try to catch these things when you can. Keith, what's going on, my guy? Fellas, it's time for some of y'all, especially the ones who are being irresponsible, to start being responsible. Making sure your sons and your daughters are not suffering in the long run. I don't care what your situation is with that person you decided to bring a child into the world with. You have to be a protector at all times. That's still your family. That's still your bloodline. You might not want to hear it, but it is truth. That's still your bloodline, regardless. Me personally, as a man, I don't think I could have been out here, even if I was on that type of time. I don't think I could have been out here having all of these kids with different women, and I'm not making sure my kids are straight, even if I was on that level. And then again, I wouldn't be irresponsible like that because whoever I'm going to bring children in the world with, hey, just know it's going to be a ride or die to the end. There is no going away. I don't care how much the system tries to break down the family structure. Person like me, too strong willed for that shit. And there's a lot of y'all young brothers out there who might not be in the situation yet. But again, choose wisely. Make sure you taking the necessary steps. Be safe. Again, because you gotta think about it. Regardless to what, you are responsible because without you, that child doesn't exist. You know, it's sad because again, when you look at some scenarios, these kids end up suffering in the long run mentally. And that is truth right there. They suffer in the long run more than anything. Because when you're supposed to be protecting yours, you was too busy trying to create more. And again, I'm gonna say this on both ends, but I'm mostly say this to the men that need to hear that. Don't think it's cool to be trying to place all of these different kids and all these different women. Because it's not gonna be a good look. And if you feel that's the way you're gonna live your life, then you better make sure you got all the best health care possible for them children, whether you there or not. Because you are, again, supposed to be responsible for the life you given out here. But I'm going to also say this too. There are some instances where there are some women out there who are being spiteful and not allowing these men to be a part of these children's life because of whatever scenario. Now, if you decide you want to push that man out, and that could be a good one that's willing to do whatever and protect his, once that man is gone, guess what? You are basically held responsible now. Don't go blaming it on the person that you just got rid of. That's not a good look at all. When you look at how some of the things are transpiring in the world around us right now, it really is sad that in the long run there are still forms of child neglect that are going on, and we haven't figured it out yet, or we haven't at least tried to make it at least more pleasant to where these kids are getting the actual help they're supposed to get. Now I get it. There are some scenarios where these kids don't have immediate family, parents, etc., and it's the reason why some of them are being neglected. Some of them are being neglected going through a system. Now, I've always felt, in my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion. If you bring life into the world and you are not being responsible at all, I'm sorry. And until you get it right, you either need to take some parenting courses or place your child with somebody that you trust until you can get it together. But if some of y'all don't get it right, the system is going to snatch yours. And there's nothing you can do about it. You might be able to fight as much as possible, but guess what? If you're in a messed up position yourself, you're going to have to get it together before you can even get your child back. Denise, baby, appreciate you for dropping those links, serious, baby. Working hard in this damn cornstalk, baby. My bad if y'all hear some extra sizzling in the background, but but in all actuality, again, this is the problem. You know for a fact, and it's not just by law, it's just by human nature. You're supposed to make sure your child is taken care of at all times. Until they old enough to take care of themselves, you are their protectors. You are gonna be held responsible, and you have to be accountable for them. To think that some of y'all would allow your children to go through the illest forms of neglect and suffering, again, it just shows how selfish your heart is. If you wasn't placed in that position, then there should be no reason why you're neglecting yours. Now, in some case scenarios, the reason why the pattern is repeated is because some of them are coming from scenarios where there is no real family structure. There's neglect. In some cases, you got kids out here who are not eating properly. That's a form of neglect because no child should go hungry. Any form of negligence towards a child, but most of y'all already know what that accounts. That encounter is going to be you going to have an ACS case and possibly be arrested. And depending on your scenario, you might be doing some jail time. So you basically are leaving your child out here to the wolves. And if you don't have no immediate family who is going to try to stand up and try to at least help out and do what they can do until you get yourself straight, your child will basically be lost in that system. Boosie, what's going on, my guy? And that's the thing, though. Again, it's not a good look. Again, some of y'all should be happy and blessed that you are able to bring life into the world because some people are not fortunate to do. Some people never got the chance to do. My opinion is about leaving legacy. And how could you think to bring something into the world that's precious and that's God's gift, and you do it so bad? I'm going to say for some of the new parents out there who might be going through certain scenarios, again, your main focus is your child. I don't care if you're a single mother, single father, or even if you're both still rounding out together and y'all creating this family, your child should never be neglected at any cost. Sad part about it, some of these scenarios that some of these children are being born into the world due to teenage pregnancies, basically. Sound like somebody about to get arrested tonight. My bad, y'all. It's like the fourth car that ran past me. But yeah, again, this is why it's important to teach. And this is why it's important to try to have these conversations, especially conversations that could be broken down to the youth. Because, you got to think about it. Again, no child should be born into this world unless you are prepared to take care of that child. And if you're not mentally capable, you ain't spiritually strong to do it, and if you're not in some form of financial barrens, you should think twice before you bring children into the world because, again, that is a responsibility. And that's a responsibility that you can't overlook at all. When it's all said and done, you're supposed to be doing the best necessary for your children. And again, when you know your children are suffering from certain forms of, you know, from certain scenarios and deficiencies, you would want to make sure your child is good. Again, I can understand there's a lot of things happening right now in some scenarios. They trying to cut certain benefits as far as health is concerned. Hence another reason why, again, some of y'all who are able to still utilize what you need to utilize, you better make sure your child has the best health imaginable, the best health care imaginable. These things are important, and it's very important because, again, you don't know what entails for the future, but you want to make sure that your child, is at least able to speak, communicate, understand everything, and try to at least live normal life. How is that normal for you to bring children into the world and you be irresponsible? So there are some of y'all who are really being very evil when you're doing things like this. I'm sorry, but at some point, again, this is where critical thinking is going to have to start coming back into play, especially when it does come down to procreation and who you procreating with. Prime example, like the negligence of not having enough for your child as far as food and medicine and things of that nature. That's a problem right there. Now, see, again, we are going through a little bit of a ill-fated time right now because of everything happening. Yes, for some, yes, this government shutdown thing is messing up for a lot of people, especially on the healthcare scenario thing. But again, whatever money you are coming across, whatever you are building and utilizing, you better make sure it gets towards the best of all kids because you're gonna need it. You know, like prime example, if you know your child could be suffering or might have the symptoms of autism or whatever the case is, again, go get professional help. Go make sure that that's not the case at all. Because again, when you detect things, you'll be able to, you know, prepare yourself for whatever you need to prepare yourself for. You know, and again, I would say for some people who need to hear it, if you are not in a situation like that yet, if you haven't brought your life into the world yet, you better make sure you fundamentally sound on all cylinders before you do so. And again, make sure you choosing the right person. Some people are going to make mistakes. That's a part of life. But not making the same mistake twice is the most important thing. And there's some of y'all that, again, you're putting yourselves in danger. You're putting yourselves in a precarious position when it does come to the upbringing of your children. So I think it's critical, again, to know your limit. Make sure you are in that good space before you do anything along those lines. Because once they here, you can't bring them back. You can't return the sender. So, and once they here, you definitely gonna have to make sure that they're getting the best. They're getting the best care and the best love all around the board. I think that's another form of negligence we don't speak about is the fact that some of these children are not being loved the way they're supposed to and not being taken care of the way they're supposed to be taken care of. You are supposed to love and honor and shoot. Like I said, supposed to definitely be thankful because you was able and granted to do something that some people can't. No doubt, serious, baby. Yeah, I know it's a couple people live right now. My notifications won't stop going off while I'm having this convo. But yeah, again, you should be thankful because again, you're blessed to do something that some people can't do or some people never got the chance to do. And again, that's, in my opinion, taking things for granted when you should. Some people might only be lucky to have one child. And even that right there is a blessing within itself. That's a whole fact. It's a whole fact. Give me 1 second, y'all. Yeah, my bad. I had to double check. Thought I had an alarm going off, but no, that's the truth though. You got to be careful in who you bringing life into the world with, because again, from a mental standpoint, right? That person might not be mentally stable enough or capable enough to handle that type of pressure. And what you think gonna happen? This is where you will get certain forms of neglect. But again, fellas, you have to be careful because again, without you placing that into somebody, that child doesn't be born. And again, it's time to start thinking more responsibly. You're always supposed to set the blueprint, especially for the younger generation. Jared, what's going on, my guy? But this is all I'm saying. How is that fair to that child that's being born into this world? Well, ladies, you have to be careful again in who you giving your body to because some of these people are not worth that. Vice versa, fellas, y'all gotta be careful because not every woman is gonna be fit for that type of life. And again, that's a big step, bringing life into the world, man. Nah, I called it down the middle, Denise. I mean, because again, it takes two to tango. But again, it got to be on both ends. Y'all both just got to be safe and be careful in what you do. Hence why they still make condoms and all this other things. Because again, the goal and purpose is if that's not your wife or you're not planning on making that your wife, if that's not going to be your husband, then y'all shouldn't be bringing children into the world like that. If you're not going to be together forever in any way, shape, or form, no, because now you taking a risk. That's going to be a risk because you got to think about it. That child definitely might be in more danger than you think, especially again if it's a situation where y'all putting y'all personal feelings before anything. Who you think gonna suffer the most? That's a whole fact. Just be careful in the choices that you're making. Because to be quite honest, raising children on any level is not easy. Like I said, there's a lot of doctor's appointments to worry about. If your children are in school or if you got guardianship over whoever, gotta worry about a lot of school, PTA meetings, all these other things that are important. You gotta worry about their physical and their mental health, just like you would have to worry about yours. You know, so I said it's critical now more than ever, especially with what's going on with the system as we speak now. You better be careful because what you think is going to be easy or going to be covered by certain practices is not going to be covered no more. And again, if you know you're not responsible enough and you're not ready, don't put yourself in that position. But again, children should not be the ones suffering. Again, especially when they didn't ask to be born. And I would advise some of you young women out there, just like some of you young fellas out there. Again, make sure your child is safe on all cylinders. It ain't no easy task, but it's a great task nonetheless. You know, you get to be a part of your children's growth and development. Who wouldn't want to be a part of their child's growth and development? Let's think about some of the people who didn't get a chance to even meet their children before untimely passings. Keep it real. These are things that people don't think about, but they should think about. There's a lot of young fellas, especially a couple young ones I know, untimely demises or untimely passings before their child's birth. So imagine how that feels. You can't imagine how that feels because nobody, I believe, can. Some people have missed out on their best situations because guess what? Locked up, unalive. If it ain't either one of those two, they done missed out on their child's birth and giving because either spiteful baby mothers or just being irresponsible altogether. That shit ain't fair. It really ain't fair at all. That got to be one of the best feelings, again, bringing life into the world and being responsible for their growth, being a part of those special moments and memories that can never be replaced. Those is priceless and timeless memories. You're building, growing, and bonding with your child or your children. And even if your children are suffering from certain scenarios, you still gotta love them the same way. You still gotta do what's necessary. Same way we got irresponsible men out there, we got irresponsible women. But the saddest thing about it is that these irresponsible ones are actually showing and actually proving my point about not everybody should bear children. Not until they fully ready. You have to be ready on all cylinders when it comes to that. You definitely got to have a strong mind and spirit because there are going to be things that test your levels or test your patience. You're going to have to deal with a lot of different scenarios that, again, could cause even the slightest tension and stress. But nonetheless, you are still being a part of the growth and development. And that's the most important thing. So, yeah, it might not be easy. You might have days that you wish didn't happen. But in the long run, it's all worth it. Because, again, you're growing and bonding with your children until they're able to fend for themselves. But yeah, it's sad because that's still a form of neglect. Not loving your child and not loving the fact that you have offspring in the world. I'm sorry, but how evil can that be? To think that they really are people out there like that. And for some people that need to hear it again, no matter what the scenario is, you are responsible and you're going to be held accountable for what's going on with your child. Prime example, there's some people who have neglected a child as far as making sure they ain't out here running the streets. In my opinion, letting your child roam and run around all hours of the day, that's negligence. And I'm sorry, it's negligence right there. Irresponsibility. See, there's so many levels to this. Hence why I had to talk about it tonight. Because again, there are some people who got things confused. Again, when it comes down to the children. There's so many different levels that you have to hit. But again, if you are going to bring them in here, then be prepared for the long journey. Get yourself mentally ready and spiritually ready. You got to be able to be critical when it comes down to your thinking, especially in times of crisis. But you also got to make sure you got a strong spirit because, again, the world will test you or the world will throw certain scenarios at you that you got to be strong for. Again, please be careful in who you choose and bring life into the world with. And I'm going to keep repeating that until it gets to the better half of your brain. There are some people who are actually being wise and being smart, And I commend you for that. Because again, you're not taking those things for granted. We know it's hard to try to find someone who's conducive for your life, but in the same token, you better make sure once you know that situation is right, you take the necessary steps. Again, there should be no reason why your child is suffering in the worst ways and forms, and you're not doing nothing to change the dynamic of it. It's something for some of y'all to think about. Now, for some, they'll say, "Oh, that's messed up." They took the child away. Now, in some scenarios, you can't feel but so bad because, again, if these people are going to decide to be irresponsible and not do what they're supposed to be doing, what you think gonna happen, Balo? I'm sorry, but that form of negligence, it shouldn't be tolerated. You feel bad in some scenarios because you don't want to see the children being snatched. But in other scenarios, you can't feel bad. You could only feel a sigh of relief because there are some people, whether you believe it or not, again, shouldn't be parents at all. You could allow your child to be in Pampers for hours on end, not change them, not properly bathe them, not making sure that they getting the proper nutrition, then yeah, your child should be taken away. Especially when you know you can provide. Sorry to say, there are some people out there who are able to provide but refuse to do the bare minimum. Now I know there's some scenarios of child neglect, again, because it could be coming from a drug infested background. Those are the ones I feel sorry for the most. Because again, they're gonna go through the belly of the beast, whether you believe it or not. And again, I would say this in so many words for those who need to hear it. If you really feel you can't be that responsible and it's already too late, you got an option. You're either gonna man up and try to do the best that you can do, or give that child up for adoption. Just know if you give that child up for adoption, if you don't have any immediate family that would do it, it's gonna be a struggle and a half to get your child back when you are ready. And you better hope that your child is not somewhere across the world by the time you get yourselves together. So again, for the fellas out there, you gonna be doing what you doing, you better make sure you prepare to take care of you and yours, no matter what. Ladies, the same thing. Have to be more responsible in who you choose. Getting to know somebody real well, those are the critical steps. Because guess what? You have to take those critical steps. You can't just sit here and say, well, oh, there goes somebody I'm gonna place a baby in. Oh, this is a person I'm gonna let get me pregnant. No, it can't be like that. And if it's gonna be that way, it better be in a whole bunch of positive interactions. there better have been a meeting of the minds, but also if you really do have a strong connection with that person, then that should be the only way you're thinking about doing that type of scenario. And I'm sorry that I sound a little bit, and it's just like I said, I can't, me personally, I just can't fathom the fact that there are people out here who are irresponsible and don't give a damn if their child survives or not. Then what was the purpose of bringing them into the world? It's time for some of y'all to get yourselves in order. And I mean get yourselves in order as far as your mental capacity and your spiritual capacity. Again, I know there are some scenarios where people really just can't take care of a child. But again, if you're going to give your child any form of opportunity, at least in my opinion, to fight and survive, then you give them away. To be quite honest, you are supposed to have somebody who is willing to help, but also someone you know you could really trust. And if you feel you don't want to be responsible and you're going to give that child up, then again, at least that child has a fighting chance. I'm not going to lie, I do hate the fact that there are countless amount of children, countless numbers of children who are going through the system as we speak now. But it's sad to think for some of y'all, you coming from a big family in the background, and they don't want to try to help. But I could also understand in some scenarios, if I got enough mouths to feed already, I can't take on the responsibility. Frugal baby. Y'all already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But you got to think about that. What's the purpose of bringing life into the world if you're not going to be responsible? You're robbing your child of a decent life when you start being negligent. There's some of y'all who are being negligent of your children and even mistreating your children because there's some of y'all who are placing new people in your lives and putting them before anything. And that's on both sides. There's some fellas out there who are single parents, but you're allowing that woman in your life to be some form of an abuser towards your child, and vice versa. Some of y'all are choosing your lovers or the new people that you decide to love with over your children. If that's not neglect and abuse, I don't know what is. That type of that type of mental sickness, I'm sorry, that's mental sickness because there's no way you could tell me you're choosing somebody over your child. That is the most selfish and the most illest form of self hatred. That person came out of your body. Fellas, these children are coming from your nut sacks. Sorry to say it that way. But I'm about to get in with it. Be careful and responsible. And for some of y'all, You gotta think about it. You can't cry and mope about having multiple baby mothers and situations and scenarios, even to the point of crying about child support when you're being irresponsible and not doing what you're supposed to do. Ladies, the same thing. Can't cry about a nigga ain't shit, but you knew what that person was like before you decided to let them pump babies in. That's why I said y'all just giving your bodies to anybody and not thinking about the consequences of the unprotected sex. You gotta remember, it only take one night, only take one time. What you gonna do 9 months down the line? Are you gonna be able to deal with that, or are you gonna fold under pressure? It's sad to see that some people actually fold under pressure, and this is where the negligence comes into play. Your child should always have all the bare necessities: a roof over their head, food, proper health care. Again, make sure that they're learning and elevate. They should always have the most love and attention because that's what they need, but also guidance. Geraldine, baby. And if you're not going to be a leader at all, don't bring them in. If you're not going to teach them and upbring them in the right way, don't think about it. But if you already done made that mistake, or if you already done did the deed, the most you could do now is, again, man up. And I'm saying that on both levels, men and women. Man up if you already done made that mistake. Sometimes you might not get it right on the first try, but make sure you're not making that same mistake. Ladies, your body is your vessel. Fellas, your body is your vessel. See, this the thing. The natural order of things has messed up too. Hence why we are having an abundance of children who are being born and neglected. Again, this is human life we're talking about. This is human life that you decided to bring into this world, or might be decided to bring into the world. There should be no gray areas. And if you know you need help in any way, shape, or form, do not be scared to go get help. Don't be scared at all. That don't make you less human because you're trying to do what's right and do what's necessary for you and yours. That just shows that you have a conscience, but you also have common sense to know that this is your responsibility. You will be held accountable on all levels. It really does hurt the heart. Sorry to say it, but it does. It hurts the heart. Because again, not going to be responsible and give them children a fighting chance and give them to somebody who actually will love them and take care of them like their own. Anytime your children don't have proper clothing, but you got proper clothing, that's neglect and abuse on a whole different level. Like I said, there's levels to this. We gonna talk about it. It's sad because again, these young men and women, they suffer mentally. They gonna have the mental and the spiritual scars. You gotta think about it. Prime example. In my opinion, that's one of the worst forms of neglect. Knowing that you on drugs and you choose the drugs over your children, that's sick right there. That's a sickness on all levels, mentally and spiritually. Because there should be no drugs, no alcohol, nor any of that that would keep you from trying to raise your children and make sure that your children are safe. This is why I said, fellas, it's time for some of y'all to be careful and who you laying your seeds in. Again, it's the worst when these ones is coming from families of long-term drug use and abuse. But when you have those children who are being neglected and they're not even coming from that type of scenario, that's the problem. When you know you can do what you need to do and you won't do it, how can you let that sit there? How could you live with that in your spirit? James, what's going on, my guy? See the coffee cups in the chat. But how could you look yourself in the mirror every day, knowing your child is suffering and you don't do that? I've always felt that no matter what you're going through in life, you got to remember once that child is here, it's no longer just about your life. You got to worry about that child as well too. Let me make this clear to those who are not in that scenario yet. Remember this again. There's no way you could tell me you're gonna be selfish and be that irresponsible when it comes to raising your child. That's not a good look. To again allow your child to suffer, knowing you could do everything in your power to make sure that they're good. If you could allow your child to suffer, you already showing not so much as you don't love your child, but you don't love yourself. And then for some of y'all, if you don't get it together right now, like I said, you'll find out the hard way. And for some of y'all who think that you that tough or think that it ain't gonna affect you, you'll see it. Because guess what? You decide to not fight for that child, if you decide to keep neglecting that child, if that child happens to make it into adulthood without really being tormented and affected, they're gonna resent you. They're going to resent you. And how can you explain to them when they are older why you allow the neglect to continue? Again, like I said about that form of neglect, If you got good clothes on and your child is out here looking bummy, dusty, scraggly, however you want to say it, that's a problem right there. In my opinion, you need your ass whooped. Cause there ain't no way in hell you can tell me I could have on the flyest gear, the flyest sneakers, and my children out here looking like refugees. Nah, when you go all out, you're supposed to go all out, and that means go all out with you and yours. It's sad that some of these people are placed in these unfair and unsavory circumstances. But when it's all said and done, you gotta live with that. That's just to shit on your spirit. And at some point, you're gonna feel it. The longer you allow your child to keep going through these forms of abuse and neglect, that's something that, again, karma's gonna slap you hard with that. Again, it's in your best interest. And I'm gonna say this again. It's in your best interest to make sure your child is good all around the board. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you can't get it together, then guess what? Your child don't deserve to be there. Your child should be somewhere where they're gonna get all the proper care and attention. When are some of y'all gonna again realize life gives us different stories and different lessons every day? And again, if you made a mistake as far as bringing your first child into the world, that wasn't something you had planned or it just happened. Hey, you know, you can't beat yourself up over those mistakes. But again, don't make the same mistake twice. But again, it's good to get to know whoever you are going to be doing things with. Again, I feel that it's unfair. It's a disadvantage to those children. Because think about it. The things that you done sat here and done, guess what? It's going to be a repeated cycle again. Now, your child might have children and decide to go with that same mentality and that same neglect and abuse that they suffer. And again, that vicious cycle don't end. And I would ask for some of y'all, what's more important? Your personal gains and your personal wins in life, or the safety and well-being of your child? I'll leave that decision up to some of y'all. It's sad because you could already figure some of these people will say one thing, but then do the opposite. You can't say you love your child and you would do anything and go to the ends of the earth for your child, but in the same token, you not even doing the bare minimum as a parent. You're not being active in your child's life. You can't sit here and say that you love your child. You can't honestly say that you're being a good or great parent. I never neglected when I was my brother's guardian. I never neglected anything, school wise, food wise, roof wise. Wasn't doing that. That might not be my son, but that's my blood still. So I made sure I did what I had to when my moms couldn't finish off the job. For you guardians out there, it's the same way you would do it if it's your own child. Don't neglect anything. And the minute you know they need help, get them the proper help. I had to bring this topic up tonight because, again, you look at certain case scenarios, it's sad that these people don't care. How could you not care about making sure your offspring is good? You are the givers of life, so it should be respected as such. But I can't respect anybody who is really abusing a child or neglecting a child in any way, shape, or form. But let's not forget about another neglect that we see some people are still doing to this day, and it's still a danger. Uh, Leaving your children unattended or leaving your children with just anybody. God forbid something happens. What you think is going to be the overall conclusion? You're going to be held responsible and accountable. In my opinion, the worst form of negligence is, again, not paying attention to anything that's involving your children. Leaving your children with people who could be unsavory, or you're not too aware of what's going on in their households and backgrounds, could cause a problem. Again, unless you fully trust these people, don't just leave your child with anybody. Because in my opinion, that's a form of neglect. And that will also end up being some form of an abuse. I can understand in some scenarios, yes, you're not going to be able to be around your kids 24/7, especially if you all work. But in the same token, they ain't of school age, you better figure out the babysitting scenarios. You can't just trust your child with anybody, but you are still supposed to have people that you know you can come to. One SP, what's going on, my guy? What's going on, my guy? But this is something that shouldn't be overlooked. Title clear as day. There's going to be effects, negative effects, if you don't get it together. Prime example, if you know your child can't read at all and you're not trying to help them, how you think life is going to turn out for them when they get older and nobody else is willing to help? Tasha, baby, going on, sis? See you up in here. I hear you. I hear you. I just found out today that that's crazy, Geraldine. But see, this is what I'm saying, though. You know, again, it's another form of negligence. Again, if you know you need some form of help, don't be scared to ask for it. Prime example, here are some of y'all who can get childcare if you need be. But then again, for some of y'all, if you got the fathers that are willing to be a part of and willing to do whatever, then this is where y'all should be coexisting together, co-parenting. If you can't get it together, because regardless to what your family, your offspring, those are the most important pieces of your life legacy. Regardless to what. I'm good, sis. You already just had to bring this topic in today. And on again. If anybody is held responsible, is you. Because again, you are the one making the ultimate choice. I'm gonna say this again, fellas, be careful in who you laying seeds in. Ladies, be careful in who's laying seeds in you. Because again, it's not a good look. Because when it's all said and done, that child will face some form of neglection. And that's not cool. You know? Not cool at all. Give me 1 second, 1 second, yo. But see, I can understand, you know. I can understand in some instances, like I said, you know, some of these kids are going to be neglected because they're coming from backgrounds where there was already neglection, there was already abuse there. So again, it's just an endless, repeated cycle until the cycle gets broken. It's unfair because again, that child didn't ask to be here. When it comes down to raising children or even being guardians and adopted parents, this ain't going to be no cakewalk. But in the same token, it's the best journey you'll ever go through. Because again, you're building and bonding with that one. You're trying to help mold, and create another great citizen or just another great spirit in the world. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? See, I'm gonna say this on both ends. When some of y'all refusing to get out of your personal feelings and spats, these children are the ones that take a bear and the brunt of the bullshit. I'm gonna say for some of y'all ladies out there, you're neglecting your child when you decide to not allow them to be around their fathers. And I'm talking about the good ones, the ones who actually don't care about co-parenting, or the ones who are trying to make things work, or the ones who really just want to beat it. You're neglecting your child, and you're also, again, taking away that bond that they need. For some of you irresponsible dads out there, the ones who actually still have chances to be part of, when you decide you're not going to see your children for months on end, and your child is not being taken away from you, your child is not far away from you, when you still could be a part of, you better do the right thing. Because think about the fellas who are going through it right now trying to see this. If you lucky enough to still have that bond and that overall moment with the BM, better get it together, man. I believe once you decide to bring a family together or raise a family together, y'all should stick it out through thick and thin. There's some couples out there before marriage that might have had a child, and guess what? They still together to this day. Why? Because again, it's about trying to raise your child the best way possible. Again, being a part of their growth and development. Again, it just boggles the mind to think that you actually have people out there who could be the best of parents, but they choose not to be because they only focusing on themselves. And that's the worst type of neglect right there. It's thinking about yourself and not thinking about your offspring. Not caring if they make it to the next physical peaks of life. And in some instances, the neglect is so serious, some of these children don't even get a chance to live a full life. Yeah, let's talk about that. If you allowed anything to happen to your child to where your child is no longer living, that's going to eat your soul alive because you allowed your offspring to suffer the way you let them suffer. There is no coming back from that. I don't care how many kids you try to produce in the world, you're going to feel that one more than anything because, again, you allowed it to happen. The link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in on this topic. Riders, baby. I mean, let's be real. How do you think this outcome happens? Or how do you think the outcome is going to turn out? If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and making sure that you're on top of everything, could definitely possibly raise or be the best parents. If you deciding not to give two hells about anything, you will be the worst form of parent to be looked at. Because again, knowing your child is suffering and you're not doing nothing about it, again, it shows that you don't care about yourself. I had to really get myself into this because again, it just hurts the heart to know that you have young ones out there who, at some point or another, will be the victims of neglect. And honestly, that should make you feel a type of way. For those who are being the greatest parents that they can be, continue to keep being the greatest parents. Like I said, the journey is not an easy one, but it's still a journey nonetheless. And you're going to have to go through it. But you should go through that journey knowing that you're doing all the best that you can and all the best that you will. Because again, when they do get a certain age, they will be able to fend for themselves. You want to try to make sure you're raising your child in the best light, at least until adulthood. And even when they are able to make their own decisions, don't neglect the fact that you are still a parent. Until you close your eyes for good, you still have a responsibility. And that responsibility is making sure that your children have learned enough and is doing enough, especially if they decide to have their own family. Can't repeat the cycle of neglect and abuse because that's a pain too unbearable for anybody. But yeah, I had to bring this topic tonight, but I also had to get in the right mindset to talk about it. So I'm not gonna lie, some of the stories that I heard personally just it made me fucking flare up. You know, again, for some of you men and women out there, that is a blessing and a gift nonetheless to be able to bear children. And you should honor and respect that and love the fact that you are able to be a part of that group. Again, you're also supposed to know that these children can't survive on their own. You have to be there to protect them, to nurture them, to teach them. And if you're not prepared to do either or, again, I would advise some of y'all to think twice before having kids or having any more kids. If you already got a kid right now and you having a hard time, don't think about bringing any more into the world because it's going to make everything worse than what it is now. And again, who's going to suffer in the long run? It ain't you. It's going to be that child. For those that need to hear it, please be safe out there with what you're doing. Be careful in who you giving your bodies to. Get to know a person inside and out before you just decide to bring kids into the world. Again, that link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in, but if not, I'm not going to hold y'all all night. I just really felt I needed to bring that out tonight. And this should be a lesson for those who need to hear it, for those who might be catching this replay or somewhere down the future. You better think twice before you bring life into the world. If you ain't ready on all cylinders, and if you're not prepared for that journey on any cylinder, this is the time that you should think twice before doing anything. And again, remember, there is still a thing called protection. Use it. Ladies, if you have to use that birth control, use it. Fellas, you got to use those condoms, use them. But if you know you really are prepared for the ride and the journey with somebody and you decide that's what you want to do and build your family tree, then make sure you're building your family tree with the right one and not multiple ones. Because when it's all said and done, regardless to what, those children are going to need. They're going to need all the love and affection and attention possible. I feel like I said what I need to say for the night. I would go deeper, but I know I'm gonna end up getting mad. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is. I'm only gonna be mad because again, when you break down the levels of the abuse and the negligence that's going on, it could be avoided on all cylinders. But again, when you have people who are only worried about themselves and worry about trying to be out in the world so badly, sad to think that these children at some point are going to either be raised through that type of neglect or they could be victims of circumstance and end up getting put through a system. But I'll definitely revisit this topic. Not gonna hold everybody all night. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Appreciate everybody that was in the shadows watching. If you just now tuning in, if you missed it, you could definitely catch this replay. For those celebrating birthdays this upcoming week and this weekend, we did not forget about you. Again, hopefully y'all keep yourself safe, no matter what plans you might have. Make sure you're enjoying every moment of your special day. Again, be observant, be vigilant. And again, if you are able to breathe and see another year, give your blessings where it's due, give the praises where it's due. Another year and another blessing around the sun for everybody. But yeah, this is something that needs to be said though. And again, I will revisit because there's multiple levels to neglect. And again, the best way to try to suppress that problem is at least trying to give out the best awareness and advice. So some of you young men and women out there, but some of you women and men who are over a certain age, again, if you're gonna bring life into the world and be responsible for it, make sure you are properly doing what's necessary. I appreciate everybody that rocked out tonight. Hold on, I didn't forget about y'all. Hold on, I didn't forget about y'all. I see some of y'all was getting your dance on, so here. I see y'all was in here getting. I see the coffee cups in the chat, boxing gloves, everything else. But yeah, we definitely need this talk tonight. And again, whenever this link is pinned, y'all more than welcome to be a part of the conversation. Again, I know there's some people who don't like to have these discussions and these talks, but again, I feel it's necessary again for the better upbringing. And with the way things are changing in the world right now, some It's about time for some of y'all to get it together. Start leading and raising your families the best way you possibly can. Don't allow no child to come into this world and have to be neglected. In order for certain things to transpire the way it's supposed to, you have to be responsible. And if you're going to make an adult decision and bring a child into the world, then it's time for you to start thinking like reasonable adults. But yeah, appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yes, we still got great topics and conversations. And like I said, whenever the link is pinned, y'all more than welcome to chime in. Uh, for those who are new or for those who might be aware of whatever, some point, and I'm thinking about it probably next month. I'm gonna try to give myself the next 2 weeks. I will be bringing back the open mic music, poetry, and music. We definitely gonna do that. But I'll definitely still keep y'all posted on that. So, hopefully somebody did get something out of this message, especially to those who are not bearing children yet. Again, think twice before you decide to bring life into the world. And if you already are in that notion of bringing life into the world, you better do the best that you can do as a parent to make sure your children get the benefits needed for their beneficial growth and just for the overall betterment of life. Like I said, but definitely revisit this topic. Could be sometime this week. I see y'all in here having a good old time. A good old time. James, make sure you put extra pumpkin spice in that damn coffee. Think they might need that. See a bunch of laughing and co-signing. Didi, what you laughing at? What you laughing at, Didi? You coming up in here and ain't bring nobody no carrot cake, no nothing? No nothing? Denise, why you ain't put that blunt in the air yet? Serious? I forgot what I was about to ask you. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I am gonna ask you. Serious? Where that cheesecake at there, damn it? But nah, again, hopefully somebody did get something out of this message. So I'm gonna put some drops for that coffee. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Y'all gonna embrace that motor oil, dang it. And embrace it good. But yeah, again, to all those who do plan on trying to give life and bear life, better remember you are still responsible and accountable for that life. And if you're not gonna do right by them, then by all means, you pass them on to somebody who will. No need for the neglect and that form of abuse to continue. But yeah, slowly get myself up out of here. But hold on. But yeah, let me get myself up out of here. Let me get myself up out of here. Uh, I'll definitely see some of y'all running around these streets, and again, appreciate everybody that was a part of the conversation. And I will be revisiting, so might be doing a little something special this Friday on here, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, let me get myself up out of here. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. And for everybody that was in attendance tonight, you already know that love is love, and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I can do is give you real. That's all I'm gonna do is give you real topics and real bills. You mean don't start that greedy talk? Bring that cheesecake. Yeah. Didi, I told you about co-signing and laughing over here, and you ain't bring nobody a plate. I'm gonna have to start taxing y'all. Some food tax in here now. If y'all ain't gonna put no coffee cups in the chat, at least put a pork chop sandwich in the chat. Son. Brother hungry. Brother hungry. But nah, I appreciate y'all though. And y'all stay safe. Keep that third eye open. And until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.